Okay, so I'm about to install the head onto the block, and I have my head bolts ready to go here. And so these are factory style Victorines head bolts. So these need to be replaced every time you take them out because they're a stretch bolt, torque to yield bolt. So they need to be reinstalled with a certain torque spec and a sequence. So we're going to follow that sequence, follow the torque spec, and that will torque our head down correctly. Now these bolts are what are called a poly drive number 10. This here is a snap-on one, number 10, and it's called a poly drive. So this is the socket you need to correctly install those head bolts. I have this other one here, and this one is kind of, I guess, a no-name brand or something. It's not actually labeled what it is. It just says chrome vanadium, the material it's made of. So it's still a hardened, tool steel. So the no-name one is actually labeled, but I found that the snap-on one fit really well into the head bolts, but that no-name brand one did not. It was actually slightly too large, so you almost had to like force it in. So what I did is I actually, I don't know if you can tell here, but I sanded down the high points, like the very sharp edges just in here where it was actually making contact with the head bolt. So I ended up sanding it down with some sandpaper and ended up kind of polishing the whole socket just to make it look better and make it more functional. So now this head bolt fits into the socket just perfectly, just like the snap-on one. So now I have a functional, I guess, a cheaper no-name brand poly drive socket. So this actually belongs to my friend, so I can give that back to him. Now I've got my own. So I just kind of wanted to point that out just because you might end up with a socket that doesn't fit perfectly. But make sure whatever you do, if you're going to do these head bolts, the factory style ones, that you use a poly drive socket. I've seen people use like a Torx T55 and like hammer it in. Don't do that. It's a really bad idea. It's going to damage your head bolts and, not going to be a good time. So kind of just a little tip, a little thing that I had to do to sort of get this socket to fit correctly. As you can see, the head is now installed on the 1.8T and it looks awesome. Went on super smooth, everything torqued down really nice and easy, no issues at all. And we got everything all timed up as well. So we got timing marks all lined up perfectly. Everything looked really good, came together really easily, timed really easily as well. And that might be because I'm using this manual timing belt tensioner. So this here is like an OEM replacement model. It's INA brand. I might have showed the box earlier, and it's kind of like an OEM replacement. Now, Integrated Engineering and like a few other aftermarket brands make these billet aluminum versions of this. But I noticed that on those models, this plate is sort of just missing, and it's just like a billet piece that kind of connects that bolt hole and that bolt hole together with like an L-shaped bracket, very simple little billet bracket. But it doesn't cover this piece. So once everything's closed off with the timing belt cover, this will be closed. Like there won't be any open hole there, but with the Integrated Engineering one, it does. So I kind of opted for this one, not only because it was covered on the left, but because it was about half the price of the Integrated Engineering one. And I mean, yeah, the other one's a billet aluminum piece, but you're never gonna see it. So I think this is gonna work perfectly. If you don't know, this is the OEM style. So this is like a hydraulic piston, and when you pull out this little pin, it releases the piston and it pushes up on this pulley. And that is supposed to apply tension to the belt. But sometimes these pistons, like the actual O-rings inside there, can fail. And if that fails and this piston retracts, the tension comes off the pulley and then your belt gets loose. And then obviously that wreaks havoc on your engine because it's going to go out of time, possibly mess up your valves, and that's no good. So I was told by many, recommended by many, to go with a manual tensioner, and so I'm glad I did. It looks awesome. Other than that, we got our KO4 installed. It also looks good, nice and fresh, clean, looks way better than the old one, and definitely looks like it's in better condition. It's got the 034 Motorsport vacuum lines on there, ready to go. Ceramic coated exhaust housing. Everything's all bolted up, ready to go. I have my oil line in a bottle there just to make sure that oil is kind of pumping all the way through the engine when we prime it, and to sort of remind me not to put it on the turbo just yet. The battery, I can't get it to charge, so I think I'm gonna have to either replace it or maybe jump start it with another battery and figure that out, but we'll get to that when we get to that. We're still waiting on some parts, as I mentioned before, but I'm going to try and get everything as buttoned up as possible here so that when those parts do come in, it'll be a quick bolt-on install, and then we can get to priming and starting the engine. Also, a little tip, if you have a dry erase marker, you can totally just write your to-do list on the car, and then sort of when you're done with it, just erase it or put your finger through it and you're done. Makes it super easy to keep track of what you need to do. And so we got our to-do list, so let's get to it. The injector cups, but they're plastic. I just went to the Volkswagen dealership to pick up these injector cups. I finally got them after, what is today, I don't know, it's been a month at least that I've been waiting for these. Well, I ended up, anyways, long story. We have injector cups. They're plastic, not billet like we wanted. But that's okay, because we got injector cups and we won't be driving this Mark II for too much longer, hopefully. So we finally have some injector cups. Now, I originally ordered the billet aluminum ones, but they ended up being on back order for a month, and they originally said that they were going to take 2 weeks. So I ended up waiting an entire month, and then I just decided to cancel the injector cups, and they ended up sending me the aluminum coolant flange. I did order a coolant flange as well, a plastic one. But then right after that, they ended up sending me the cast aluminum one. So this one ended up already getting ordered, so I decided I might as well just keep it as a spare, and I'll wait for the aluminum one. And so that's supposed to come in tomorrow. These came in today, and even these were delayed by a day, which no big deal. They took 3 days to come in from Volkswagen in Toronto. So I picked these up from the Volkswagen dealership, and so now we are ready to put them on finally. And I have some thread sealant here. It's definitely a lot of it for this. I probably will never use this stuff again, but at least I have it now. So we have the intake manifold in the car. I'm going to loosen these while the manifold is kind of sitting on these studs, just to make it easier. I did already loosen this one, and it did come undone relatively easily. So and then I also have paper towel sitting inside the intake runners. So if a little bit of dirt falls in, it's no big deal, because I'll just pull those out and it'll be all clean. And then I'm just going to loosen them, and then I'll take them over to the workbench and get them the rest of the way out and clean them, the threads underneath there, and then get the sealant onto the new injector cups and thread those in. So let's do that. proven to be just as difficult as I thought it would be. The two outer ones came out pretty easily, and then this one I just completely went from beginning to end just to kind of get a feel for actually installing it. So it starts like this, slowly loosens it. That's halfway through, like busting the pieces out, you know, one by one with a hammer and a screwdriver. And always wear eye protection. And so then this one is when it's all pounded out, and then I still gotta go and get where did my pick go? I have like a little dental pick, there it is, to go in and actually clean out the little bits. And I should have shown the threads in here before I threaded this one in, and they were like completely free of any of this stuff. So I completely cleaned it out, each little bit of the threads with this pick, and then went through with the wire brush, which is already pretty beat, but it's perfect for this. So it just goes in there, and I just completely cleaned out all the threads as much as I could. Just want to be kind of careful with stainless steel pick tools because you're using stainless steel on aluminum. So I'm trying to sort of be as gentle as I can and just pick off gently all that little remnants of the injector cups. So once that's all clean, then you can kind of thread this in. So I have this sealant, I put the sealant on, it went in pretty smoothly. I went by hand, maybe like a quarter of the way, and then the rest of the 3/4 of the way I went with a ratchet, and it went in super smooth. So hopefully I'm gonna clean these all as best as I can, and hopefully the rest go in as smoothly as the first one. All right, still picking away at this. This one actually ended up coming out in one piece somehow. I put some paper towel around the socket so that it would kind of fit a little bit better and prevent it from cracking. And I guess it worked on this one, but obviously not that one. So I'm gonna keep picking away at this stupid thing. This one came out okay. And yeah. After about half an hour more of picking and clawing away at this thing, I think I got all the injector cup hole threaded things cleaned up enough to get the cups in. Some of the threads are a little gouged, but I think that's about as clean as they're gonna get. So let's get those cups in and hopefully they go smoothly. Like this one went really smooth in and out. This one came out in one piece. Those two were a pain, so we'll see. Okay, so we got them all in. These two went in pretty smoothly. This one, freaking cross-threaded on me. So that kind of sucks. Doesn't sit perfectly flush there, but hopefully it'll still seal. All the other ones are perfectly flush. Super satisfying. But this one, I could not get it to go in straight, and then I got halfway through, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna send it, and then I might just order another one and replace it after. I should have ordered extras, but of course I didn't. So I mean, it's a lot better than it was before, so looks a lot better too. Okay, so I filled this with some sealant, the little crack there, just to make sure that it's as sealed as possible. The other ones look really good, all perfectly sealed. Okay, so it's been 48 hours now since I put these cups in. Apparently this has a 48 to 72 hour cure time, so I waited an extra day just to kind of let it set. And also, finally, we have our aluminum coolant flange. Been waiting for this damn thing for like a month. This is the original plastic one. I mean, it's still in good shape. It would work probably just fine, but I figured while you're in there, right, replace the stuff that is a common failure point, which these are. They tend to leak. I also don't even know where the O-ring went. So So this one came with obviously a new O-ring. Got our O-rings here, and it will just go into there like that to seal everything up. So this I think should be a lot more reliable. I mean, obviously it'll never crack. So we'll give that a shot. So we'll install that. We have a brand new temp sensor ready to go in as well. All right, so final assembly is taking place. Just to put the valve cover gasket on, and I'm gonna put some RTV in the corners here, just where the these corners are, that are sort of upward facing. On all four corners, you gotta put RTV there, and then it'll be all good to seal up and almost ready to start. So we have some ghetto plugs ready. All the things that were deleted are now ready to go. All the wiring's plugged in, injectors are plugged in. Well, actually they're not plugged in because we're gonna prime it first without fuel. The brake booster line is back in. I had to sort of like add a bolt there, and then also another cap, a vacuum cap there. And then there's a couple vacuum caps on the intake as well from the deleted stuff. And then a few little electrical connectors left to do. All the boost pipes are now tight. Everything should all be good. As far as I know, there's just that one coolant line off the turbo that's going to come in front of the timing cover, and then there's like one vacuum line that will go there for the diverter valve. So once those are all done, it's pretty well time to prime it. Okay, everything is back together now. We have the coolant flange all hooked up, all the coolant lines and everything. The only thing that's still unplugged are the coil packs here and the injectors, because I'm going to prime the engine just by kind of running it on the starter to get oil pressure built up. I have my turbo line unplugged still. I'm gonna just kind of put it into that bottle for now, just to make sure it's coming all the way through. I have the battery out of my Jetta because that one is dead. Die hard my ass. And so I'm just borrowing that battery for now, and then I'll probably try to warranty that one or whatever, replace it. So yeah, we're pretty much ready to prime it. I did notice the little heater core line that comes off the back of that coolant flange did require like an O-ring, and it also had like this little kind of like a tapered plastic bushing thing, which I'll put a picture of it on the screen. And at first I didn't know which pieces it needed. I couldn't like remember, but finally I tried a couple ways. I asked a friend, and I actually put it together with the bushing, but I didn't do the O-ring because I didn't think it needed an O-ring, and I couldn't find anything online. And I put it back together, and then right away it started leaking coolant out. So I ended up with like a puddle under the car, but I ended up putting the O-ring in just above the bushing. I don't know why I'm pointing, you can't really see it here, but and then I put it back on and it was all good. So then I put the coolant in, and now it's just kind of holding it there. And of course it'll kind of take more coolant as it runs and bleeds the air out of the system. So yeah, it looks like for now, no coolant leaks. And then we're gonna have to just check oil and everything, make sure oiling is all good. All the vacuum leaks hopefully or all the vacuum lines are hopefully all sealed and ready to go. I did have to make kind of like a couple ghetto little things just for now, like this boost gauge line. It's kind of coming right off the intake here. Probably give me a pretty jittery reading, but that's fine. So I'm gonna just let the battery charge up a little bit and then prime it, and then we should be hopefully good to start if the prime and everything goes good and oil is flowing through everywhere. I'll top up the oil, make sure it's at the correct level, and yeah, I think that's it. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. I don't think I am. I had a super long list and got through every item, so yeah, let's do it.